Welcome to Metro Talk. I'm Kent Sheffield. Thanks for being with us. Jim Schrader, the publisher of the Telegraph, is alongside. Welcome, Jim.
Hi, Kent.
And Pat Gowan, one of the editors with the Post-Dispatch, is here as well. Welcome, Pat.
I can't.
Pat, area communities are debating whether or not they should be upgrading their storm alert systems, whether they should be putting in new sirens, rehabbing existing sirens. The bottom line is, should the communities be moving forward with that, or is it time to switch to different technologies?
Well, there's only so much money available. It seems like a good time to take a look and see what those technologies are. The reverse 911 system some cities have that allow you to call everybody's home phone or everybody's cell phone seem to make a lot of sense. If they can be made to work quickly enough, then that might be a better way to go. The siren certainly provides a benefit to the people who live within earshot of one. I happen to live closely enough that it would wake us from a dead sleep. And often has, and so that's good. There are weather radios that you can buy that you can program to a very narrow area in which you live. It's called the SAME system, and you buy the radio for like $30 at any number of places. Radio Shack has them. I know other places do. Buy the radio for $30 or $40. You program it for your particular area and leave it on in the middle of the night. It'll sound an alert and wake you up if there's a tornado warning for your particular place. One of the things I'd like to see happen is a more consistent intent in the alert. I always joke that in Highland, where I live, essentially they blow the sirens if a tornado is suspected anywhere east of Denver, Colorado. It's not really quite like that, but they're pretty quick on the trigger with severe thunderstorm warnings. It doesn't have to be a tornado warning for them to blow the sirens. And the idea is that you get up and you turn on the TV and you see what's going on. It does have a sort of a chicken little sky is falling effect on some people who tend to take this stuff with a shrug and move on. What are the odds that you're going to get mowed down by a tornado? Then they see what happened in the South and then later in Joplin, and it's on the public consciousness for a while, but as that fades, the risk will be there in whatever measure it truly is. So with a limited number of dollars, I encourage leaders to try to find the most bang for the buck, which might be sirens, but might not.
Jim, is it time for communities to take a look at their emergency warning systems, upgrade sirens, or is it time to take a look at different technologies?
Well, I think whether or not now is the time necessarily just because of what we just witnessed in Joplin, or if it should be ongoing. Early warnings of some kind are helpful. Whether or not sirens are the best option may depend on where you live. And I know a lot of debate has gone on in the city of Alton because the city of Alton is one of the larger communities around that does not have sirens. In part, as explained by Mayor Tom Higgs, is due to the topography of the city of Alton. It's hills and valleys and ups and downs. And while sound it has a ripple effect, we all remember general science and sound waves and how they travel and spread out. If you're at the top of the hill, they're not necessarily going to fall into the valley, they're going to come straight across. Or if the sound goes into a hill, it's going to bounce off or a bluff or elaborate from there. So I can see that the city of Alton would be difficult to have enough sirens placed where everybody could hear them. I happen to live in Bethalto, which has sirens. There have been times when, and I would say I'm probably about 3/4 of a mile from the closest siren, which would be, in my particular case, at City Hall. And there have been times that I've been woken by it, and there have been other times that I haven't. Slept right through it. Is that my fault or is that the siren's fault? You know, sometimes if the storm is going on, it will drown out much of the sound, as it did this morning. The sirens didn't go off, but we're taping this on Tuesday, but at about 6:30 this morning, it was raining hard at my particular house. I think we need to explore any and all instead of, and should we do sirens and not anything else? What can we do, and what can we do to alert most people most effectively? Be it the phone systems, be it the reverse 911, be it sirens, be it some type of, a radio that you buy that automatically has a weather radio built into it, which would be kind of an interesting option. That if you buy a clock radio for your bedside, it automatically would come with a weather radio. That could be helpful as well. But what we've witnessed from Joplin, even with early warning systems, even with some warning, even with sirens, even with all of the technology that we have today, Mother Nature can be a powerful force, and I think the total death toll now in the Joplin case is about up to 153 or something like that. That is with some advance warning. That is with a day that had media coverage of storms are coming, storms are coming, storms are coming, all over the place, and then the worst possible thing that could happen in the worst possible area happened in Joplin. So I would say any and all, and including if it's, police cars sitting on the street broadcasting their loudspeaker, whatever it takes that we can warn the most people is what needs to be done. I personally agree with Mayor Hakes on the sirens. They don't appear to me that would be effective in many neighborhoods in Alton. Some maybe, but not all.
And the school districts seem to have good luck closing school just with the simple telephone call.
Well, that's one of the things that I agree with Pat when he was talking about they may be a little too quick on the trigger. In the case of Highland, that has been a problem in Bethalto in my area as well. There's no report coming over electronic media that there's been any tornado spotted, but all of a sudden the siren would go off, so maybe somebody called in and said, well, I think it might be, so therefore we get a phone call. As far as the schools releasing, I find that interesting. To me, the last place I would want my kids is out on the street trying to figure out how to get home if there was a storm warning. It would seem to me I would rather keep them in school and try to seek shelter somewhere there rather than putting them in a school bus that's going to be top heavy and blow over, or putting them on the streets and walk home before the storm gets here.
We need to take a break. We'll have more right after this.
Hi, I'm Audrey Lucchese, and I'm from Alton, Illinois. I love music, and that's why I came to Lewis & Clark. It's been an amazing experience here at Lewis & Clark, working with students that are so talented, coming from all over the area, and they work so hard to follow their dreams. The music faculty at Lewis & Clark they're fantastic, and they're there every step of the way to push you to follow your dreams. One of the unique opportunities that I have had at Lewis & Clark is being able to record my own music with a fellow student here. Being able to record our music has opened doors for us in the music industry. My long-term goal is to finish here at Lewis & Clark and then to transfer to a four-year school and finish my degree in music performance. I would recommend Lewis & Clark to another student because it is definitely a great place to get started and it can open so many doors for you.
Big dreams and good grades aren't enough to get into college. There are actual steps you need to take. Finding someone who can help is the first and most important. For the next steps, go to knowhowtogo.org.
Watching Metro Talk, I'm Kent Sheffield. Pat Gowan and Jim Schrader are here. Jim, area labor unions held a rally in Granite City last week. They're saying that the middle class may be going away with the way things are going in the U.S. Are we seriously facing the possibility of seeing a shrinking middle class?
Define middle, I guess. I think in part what the unions were talking about is some of the attacks that have gone on trying to eliminate unions in different areas, the loss of jobs to other countries, costing union laborers their jobs. Specifically, they were talking about some of the bills that have gone before different state legislatures on teachers unions and whether how easy it is or isn't to retain teachers or fire teachers. But I don't know, all of that said, I don't know what effect the unions may have on that. We are a nation that decides that a movie star should make $20 million in filming a picture, a movie picture. We've decided that our pro athletes are worth $25, $30, $35 million a year to throw a ball, shoot a basketball, play football. We have decided that we would prefer to buy cheaply made products manufactured in China or Malaysia or Vietnam, where the factory worker makes $1 a day, rather than buying a pair of Levi jeans for $30 that were manufactured in North Carolina. We've decided that we want the cheapest products possible, while on the other hand, we're saying, but we want all of our union laborers to have the fine, lucrative jobs that they used to have where they make a good wage. You have the dichotomy there of you can't have the cheapest products available on a worldwide stage when you're trying to pay union wages in the United States, comparing that to wages overseas. Do I think the middle class is shrinking? I think we have upper middle class, middle class, and lower middle class. I think that the broadness of the middle class has probably changed from the extremes of very well-paid athletes and CEOs and movie stars down to the lowest that can barely make ends meet due to their circumstances of unemployment or disability or whatever their circumstances are. But until we as a nation decide to change our requested importance of what we pay for materials, before we pay for manufactured products, I don't know how you're going to fill back those jobs that used to pay so well here in the United States, where we made our own washers and dryers and we made our own steel and we made our own consumer electronics. Now we want to go to the local big box store and we don't care where it came from as long as it has the cheapest price point possible.
Pat, labor rally in Granite City last week. The unions are saying that we're going to lose the middle class in America. Are we facing that possibility?
Well, I think everyone slid down on the spectrum. If you've got a spectrum from being rich to being poor, wherever you fell on the line of that, unless you're really rich or really lucky, you're probably poorer than you were. You probably have less earning power than you did before the recession. Those things, I think, are beyond any question. And I think a lot of people are closer to the edge, whether it's because they're upside down in their home mortgage or because they were a two-earner house that's got one, or somebody who's living on unemployment benefits that will run out after a particular term. There are a lot of people in deep trouble. Yeah, a big guy named Peter Goodwin, who's a New York Times writer, wrote a book about this. The long title began with the words past due. I can't remember the rest of the words. Doesn't matter. I haven't read the book. I have read some of the New York Times stories he wrote, which were the underpinning of the book. He gave an example to show how closely some people are riding to that edge. He gave an example of a woman, I think in San Jose, California, who had a pretty good job, and she gets stopped by the police for failing to have a $10 wheel tax sticker, I think it was. And the officer would have written her a warning, except she had a previous citation for it she ignored. She pleaded with him not to tow her car. because she said she didn't have the money to buy the $10 thing. It just didn't fit in the budget. He towed her car anyway, did what he was supposed to do legally, I guess. She couldn't pay the tow charges. That eventually racked up to $1,600 because she couldn't get to work. She lost her job because she couldn't get pay from her job. She lost her house. And this was documented by I guess pretty rigorous reporting. I mean, just for one of the nail, the horseshoe was lost. For one of being able to buy the $10 city sticker, she ended up losing her house. I'm sure it's an extreme example, but my point is that there are people who are living so close. They were one paycheck away from despair before. They were one paycheck away from even worse disaster. Now, I have no idea how to fix it. I'm just certain that that's the case. If you're me, you're somewhere in a reasonably comfortable part of that spectrum. Karen and I are probably not as well off as we would have been without the recession, but we really have nothing to complain about. We both have our jobs, and things have been rather good to us. But we're still lower on that spectrum than we would have been. And I think this union rally, and I'm not quite sure what all they want done as a result of it, because that was never made clear to me. But I think it's certainly highlighted a problem that anybody who thinks about it would recognize.
And I don't know, and I understand that we're in a global economy now, and everybody talks about NAFTA, and we talk about that we have to have a presence in China or Indonesia or Mexico or Europe or wherever it is in manufacturing. But it would seem to me that if everybody had to live on an even keel, if everybody had either similar wages that they paid their employees, or if tariffs were such as they can be when we're exporting U.S. products into foreign countries, if those same tariffs were in place with products coming into the United States, then maybe Maytag wouldn't be moving manufacturing of their washers and dryers to a foreign country, and we'd still be making them in Bloomington.
We need to take a quick break. We'll have more of Metro Talk right after this.
Hello and welcome to the Lewis and Clark Minute. Today we're going to check out the radio broadcasting program in WLCA with Mike Lemons.
Have you ever listened to your favorite radio station or your favorite disc jockey and say, you know, I could do that? Or maybe you're the type of person who says, I could never do something like that. Well, with the help of first-year mass comm student John, we're going to show you just how easy it is. Each voice intro starts with talking about the band that just played, and we add a station identifier. Next, you want to offer some information that may be of interest to your audience. And finally, tell the listeners what the next song is, who sings it, followed by another station identifier. John will do one live now.
Silver Sun Pickup Substitution on WLCA. The Big Pink released their debut album called A Brief History of Love. This single is off that album. It's The Big Pink with Dominoes. It's on College Radio's Best 89.9.
This has been your Lewis and Clark Minute.
What's that? I don't know. Something I kind of made. Ooh, what's it do?
What do I do? Well, thanks for asking. I ring my bell and I like to dance. What do I do? Well, thanks for asking.
Ow! Yeah, it still needs a little work.
Anything's possible. Keep thinking. Get started on your own inventions or just play some games at inventnow.org.
Sounds like you could use some Van Gogurt. It's fortified with arch-rich nutrients to improve your math and reading skills. Catch!
Van Gogurt, thanks. So what's the deal with your ear?
Always with the ear, huh?
Feed your kids the arts. For 10 simple ways to learn how, visit AmericansForTheArts.org.
This is Metro Talk. I'm Kent Sheffield. Pat Gowan and Jim Schrader are here. Pat, Governor Quinn is withholding $52 million in transportation money that was allocated for the school districts. Governor Quinn says he needs that money to get federal matching dollars for Medicaid, and that the school districts can have that money in December. Is he making the right move by withholding that money now?
Well, these are hard decisions to make. He might be. By using it for Medicaid matches, it looks like he might be able to parlay a delayed $52 million payment to schools into something between $100 and $200 million in federal grants that otherwise would have been lost. So if the man's getting $2 to $4 for every dollar he delays, then maybe it makes sense. On the other hand, the school district, which may have to borrow or otherwise rearrange funds to make ends meet, probably doesn't get any of the Medicaid money, so the state's being able to benefit at the detriment of the local school districts. I find it amazing, and I was not naive enough to believe that the 2/3 increase in our income tax was going to solve everything. But sometimes I have the sense that the 2/3 increase in the income tax solved nothing. When I look at where we were before, the pensions were god-awful underfunded and still are. The creditors of the state were waiting for their payments and still are. The school districts were getting shafted and still are. Now, I know not that much of the money's come in yet, but still, it does not make sense to me that we're in quite as bad a shape as we are for this. We are in bad shape. This kind of juggling is going to have to be done. It's unpopular, but when we look at this and say, don't raise our taxes anymore and don't shut down our government, you're going to have to be nimble about the things you do, and this may just be the governor being nimble, even though I know the educators don't like it and the local people don't like it, and to a greater and greater extent, the state is shifting its unpaid burdens down to local levels of government. They're going to have to find ways to deal with it.
Jim, Edwardsville Superintendent Ed Hightower had a letter to the editor in your paper saying this is not right. Should the governor be doing this?
It's not right if you're at the school level, as Pat said, but if you can jockey this around and get a 2-to-1, 3-to-1, or 4-to-1 return on that $52 million, yes, that makes sense because we still have Medicaid obligations as well. However, that doesn't solve the problem for the school districts. It also doesn't solve the problem for the pharmacists and for the assisted living homes and all the other people that are owed monies by the state. I read the other day that the state, who is collecting that additional 2/3 income tax effective January the 1st of 2011, has collected about $3.2 billion more in the first 5 months of this year than they did the first 5 months last year. They're running about $600 million a month ahead. And as Pat has said, we're still in the same crap hole that we were before we had a 67% increase in our income tax. Now, I understand that I went to school when 2 + 2 equaled 4, and 12 divided by 12 equaled 1, and I don't understand the new math that they utilize now. But this is amazing to me, how this state can be collecting $600 million a month extra, and we're still telling all of the schools in the state, you know, that $52 million we owe you, let me give you an IOU. You know, it's going to be, instead of 180 days late, it's going to be 270 days late or 360 days late. It just amazes me the amounts of money that we're talking about and the seeming lack of attention to the checkbook in Springfield and Washington, for that matter.
For the record, since the tax passed, Quinn's original plan was not to withhold $52 million from school transportation until December. His original plan was to cut $92 million from school transportation, period. And that one failed with the legislators. So we're acting like we're in really tough times here, and maybe we really are, but it's hard for me to grasp how we can still be in such bad shape.
Makes you wonder where we'd be if there had not been a tax increase.
Well, very much so.
Well, we'd be auctioned off on the steps of the courthouse, probably.
State would be coming to get my front license plate to melt it down to sell for scrap metal. You know, they say, oh, you need a back plate now. Well,
Pat, the state's been spending money for years to widen Route 159 between Edwardsville and Belleville. They're now down to the last 1.5 miles. Everything else will be completed by the end of the year. And now the word is the money for that last 1.5 miles is not there. Former state representative Jay Hoffman says the money was there when I was in office. Representative Dwight Kay says, wait a minute, I'm on the transportation committee and that money's not there. What should we believe here?
Well, Hoffman had been the chairman of the transportation committee, and my guess is that probably helped grease the skids for that project a bit. The Democrats hold sway in the legislature. The Department of Transportation is a creature of the governor's office. The governor is a Democrat. If he wanted that done badly enough, my guess is it would be getting done sooner rather than later. I'm only guessing that by showing a more Republican leaning, by picking Mr. Kay over Mr. Hoffman in the last election, that district is being punished, perhaps, by the Democrats for not having come around. Because blame it as you might on Dwight Kay, the state representative, and he's on the Transportation Committee, he's not the chairman, and all the cards are in the hands of the Democrats. So to blame him individually, it appears to me to be a politician, Mr. Hoffman, setting up Mr. Kay as a target for a future attack. And that's fine, that's what politics is about. And I'm not questioning that if Hoffman were there, maybe the money would still be there. There's some source of amusement in this to me, because I'm as old as I am, I'm almost not old enough to remember when they weren't at least planning, if not doing, parts of this. I lived in Collinsville and worked out of the Post-Dispatch Bureau in Belleville, and I had to commute through it when they were building it. About the time they were done, they switched me to Edwardsville, so I was commuting to Edwardsville through the part of construction that went there. So I've lived with this on a day-to-day basis through the years, and to think that there's this one little piece in Collinsville that remains undone out of that whole project at this point. I think it's $16 million. It's a lot of money. IDOT says it'll be on the plan, coming up, and I expect it will be built before long. But I can't get out of the idea that maybe the Democrats are punishing the Republicans punishing the district for electing a Republican.
Maybe punishing? I'll take it a step further. Representative Hoffman, chairman of the Transportation Committee, when Governor Blagojevich was governor, it's the same pair that brought you the Governor's Parkway in Edwardsville. If Governor Blagojevich were still in office and Representative Hoffman, his roommate and lifelong pal, was still in office, 159 would probably be finished, and we'd call it Rod's Road or something or other instead of Governor's Parkway, because we'd have to have some variation of what to call it to honor the fine work that Governor Blagojevich had done, or maybe we call it the Blago-Hoffman Road or something or other. It's positioning for Hoffman. I don't think anybody thought when Representative Hoffman was last defeated, or was defeated by Representative Kay, that we'd seen the last of Mr. Hoffman. I think the volleying has begun here, and I expect to see him run against Kay in the next election.
Pat, the Illinois Sex Offender Management Board was created to establish rules for tracking more than 10,000 sex offenders. That board was supposed to have a tracking system in place 7 years ago. It's still not functional. Do we need it?
Well, they don't have enough authority to compel the agencies involved to provide the data, and apparently they're having trouble getting people come to their meetings on their board. They spend about $80,000 a year, which it appears from this is about $80,000 too much. In fairness to everybody, I guess, the legislature sometimes creates these things and then doesn't actually see if anything's being done. There's no follow-up or not enough follow-up. So now we know they ought to either fix it or get rid of it.
Jim?
If we haven't needed it for the last few months, shut her down. We can save the money.
That's going to do it for this edition of Metro Talk. Thanks for being with us. Pat Gowan, one of the editors with the Post-Dispatch, has been here, along with Jim Schrader, the publisher of the Telegraph. I'm Kent Sheffield. We'll see you next time.